Today marked the beginning of Google's I/O, their annual developer conference, which this year at least kicked off, focused a lot on consumer-based products. We'll go into some of those very interesting products in a second here, but I just want to say that nothing mentioned in this video is private information or proprietary information. Everything is publicly available. Just want to cover that before mentioning that I did spend some time at Google, so I have some context that might be helpful for you guys to understand all the things going on right now. First, let's talk a little bit about software. Starting with Google's Lambda 2, their kind of conversational AI that they're working on, which is very, very interesting stuff that frankly mostly goes over my head. The interesting part for me was that one of the demos was actually given by a gentleman by the name of Josh Woodward, who was a coworker at Google. I just want to call out that he's just such a great guy that he deserves all of the success and limelight that he's getting. I'm really excited to see people that I actually worked with getting the opportunity to show off the things that they're very passionate about. One of the big software announcements from today was Google Wallet, which is a new application made for storing your credit cards, your tickets, your boarding passes, and eventually even your ID, which is all exciting stuff. But many people point out that some of this stuff was built into the existing Google Pay app, and many have had the hot take that Google is rebranding Google Pay yet again. But that's not the case, at least not in US and Singapore, and I don't know what's happening in India. But generally, the Google Pay application is going to stay the way it is in the US, and the Google Wallet app is going to be a new incremental app which offers a different feature relative to Google Pay. I know that this can be confusing, but the Google Pay app is a lot more than just a place to store your credit cards. It's supposed to be a place where you can see all your transaction history and where you can actually buy new things from merchants or where you can get special offers on merchants that you want to shop with. There's a combination of features that you would get with maybe a Venmo or a Mint or a Rakuten or several other payments applications all built in the Google Pay application. And the point of Google Wallet, at least in my mind, is just give you a place to get to your credit cards quickly without having to go through all that other stuff. We'll have to see what exactly happens in the future. It seems that the Google Wallet application will replace the old Google Pay in countries where the new Google Pay wasn't ever launched, which makes it even more confusing for those who are not in the US. But I'll point out that Bill Reddy, the president of commerce at Google, who oversees Google Pay and everything commerce, is relatively still new to the company. He was brought over from PayPal, where he was COO, and before that Venmo, where he was CEO. So he's still relatively new to Google, and I have a feeling that his strategy and Google's broader strategy with payments will shine through soon enough. Okay, now on to hardware. Let's start with the Pixel Buds Pro, which I'm especially interested in. After years of switching between earbuds, I've kind of fallen mostly using just the Pixel Buds A, which are not the top-end earbuds. They don't have noise cancellation, but what I appreciate about them is they easily switch between all of my Android devices, which I'm most often listening to. Obviously, I'd love to have noise cancellation. I'd love to have the same high-end features that I had with the original Pixel Buds, like swipe controls, but the Pixel Buds have been just fine for me in most cases. Better, in my experience, than sticking with the Galaxy Buds Pro. For me, the Pixel Buds Pro will be able to fill that gap and thankfully be a higher end pair of the type of buds that I exactly want. I'm excited. I'm excited to see them. $199 is an okay price point. We've seen the AirPods Pro drop to below $199. The Galaxy Buds Pro could be had for $100 or less. So it might be a little steep, but hopefully they'll offer all the features that any sort of Pixel lover will want. They'll be available for pre-order on July 21st, which is a little bit far in the future. Speaking of which, let's talk about the Pixel 6a. I was disappointed by the Pixel 6. While it was a great phone for the price and offered a lot of the same features as the Pixel 6 Pro, I didn't really love using it, and some of that came from the fact that it was just as large and difficult to hold as the Pixel 6 Pro. That's what I love about the Pixel 6a. It's a substantially smaller phone that hopefully is easier to one hand, which is great, and it comes at a price at $449, which is the same price as the Pixel 5a from last year. Now, I haven't seen a small form factor Pixel phone with a flagship chip since the Pixel 4, which was years and years ago. It's great to finally see a flagship smaller phone from Google. Obviously, we'll have to get it in hand and test it out before we can determine whether it's the best phone under $500, but I have a feeling that it's going to be a more compelling option, for me at least, than the iPhone SE 2022. And then, completely unexpectedly, well, maybe, Google announced the Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro, which will be released later this year. When I say maybe, it's just because Google kind of did the same thing early last year, announcing the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro early to kind of get ahead of leakers. I think they're kind of going about this strategy where, knowing that a lot of the sort of design and high-end, like top level specs will be leaked, they pre-announce it in order to get ahead of leakers and kind of take the thunder back. I don't know if it actually works in terms of getting people excited, but it seems that Google actually wants to compete, not in terms of specs and visual design, but instead software. So all the software features will probably be announced later in the year when the actual phones are available for sale. Since we have the design, we know it looks pretty similar to the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro, which is not too much of a surprise, but it's nice to see Google kind of fall into a design language. The big difference being that the camera bump is now aluminum rather than glass. Apparently, there were some people that had an issue with their camera bumps breaking, which is a nice change if that's the case, but I don't really love the design. It frankly looks still very techy and unique to me, but not really so svelte as many other phones on the market. And then we had the Pixel Watch announcement, which a few people had guessed at, but it's interesting that Google still decided to announce it months and months ahead of its actual availability date. It looks like a relatively svelte glass and metal pebble that sits on your wrist pretty lowly and looks to be smaller than some of the larger offerings from Samsung and other Android Wear manufacturers. I'm excited about it because it's just another Android Wear manufacturer in the market, and we'll have to see whether Google offers additional software features and a different experience relative to Samsung's near Tizen version of Wear OS. One thing that I'll call out is, based off of the videos that we got, it appears that the bezels are very, very large, which means that the screen real estate is going to be substantially smaller than a similarly sized Galaxy Watch 4, but I don't know if this is too big of a deal for me. My current watch of choice is the Apple Watch SE, which has an older design, and frankly, I don't find myself really staring at the screen all that long. I kind of go through the interactions very quickly, get to where I need to be, and then don't touch it, which is kind of the optimal smartwatch experience for me. If instead you're the type of person who wants to download a bunch of applications on your watch and use them on a daily basis, then maybe the smaller watch face of the Pixel Watch will be a bit of a downside. But we'll have to see the actual experience later this year. It appears that the bands have a proprietary latching mechanism, which a lot of people seem to be worried about online, but frankly, I don't think it's the biggest deal, considering that even for Apple Watch with a proprietary mechanism, there are third-party bands that actually connect to more traditional sized, I think it's 18mm watch bands, for example. I assume that we're going to see the same sort of options, if not from Google, then from third-party manufacturers pretty soon here. And finally, there was the Pixel tablet, which was announced ahead of a potential launch in 2023. I don't think I saw anything about this, or anyone saw this coming, which is pretty amazing. The specs that they gave were relatively high level. They just told us that it'd be running on Tensor, and they gave us a very, very high level view of what the design would look like, which didn't look all that impressive to me. But Google being more serious about tablets is a benefit for any Android fan. I'm excited to see what it brings to the table. I have my Pixel Slate here in the background, which unfortunately was not the best solution for Android, or in this case, Chrome tablets. But maybe the Pixel tablet will bring a better experience, being focused more on Android. It seems that Google is taking the software experience on larger screens more seriously. They're trying to deliver Android to larger screens, which we saw first with Android 12L, more and more of the software development dedicated to foldables, and now we're going to be seeing with a dedicated first-party tablet. And one thing that many won't recognize is that Google probably had a large hand in developing the Android experience on devices like the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. While it is a Samsung product, it's probably the case that Google had to tweak the Android software experience in order to help them deliver features like Dex in the way that they're doing so. Which brings me into why Google might be doing this and how they would differentiate their own tablet offering from other available Android tablets on the market. From the renders, the Pixel tablet looks to be relatively simple. It doesn't strike me as a direct competitor with the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra in being ultra premium, but I think there are some additional features that Google could bring to the table to make itself competitive with other tablets in the market. First is building a native Android experience that works in a desktop mode, similar to the way that Dex works or similar to the way that Chrome OS is able to manage Windows. I know that Google has had slow developments in this over the years, but maybe finally we'll actually get to see Android and Chrome OS bridging from the other direction, where we've seen in the past Chrome OS being able to run Android applications. Maybe in the future we'll see Android be able to run more desktop style experiences similar to Chrome OS. The biggest question for me is whether we'll be able to run a true desktop browser on this new version of the Pixel tablet. That is one of the biggest frustrations that I had when using the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra, not having a true desktop browsing experience. The other feature that Google could introduce with the new Pixel tablet is a dedicated docking mode that allows it to work similarly to the Nest Hub when connected to a docking station. Just like the Lenovo Smart Tab from a couple years ago works like an Amazon Echo Show when docked into a speaker. This is a cool merging of two different technologies that I think has been obvious as long as the whole smart home hub has existed as an idea. I've always wanted to be able to just pick up that screen and walk around the house with it, and then just dock my tablet when I'm not using it and have it still functional. It's an obvious solution, but I'd love for Google to actually solve that. Now, based off of the design, the renders that we've actually seen, it's possible that this is exactly Google's plans because they have, it looks like 4 pogo pins at the back of the device that will allow it to dock, hopefully. The alternative is it's just a connection for a keyboard, which I'm not too excited about. The pogo pins on the back of the device would mean that the keyboard, any keyboard attachment, would actually have to cover the whole back of the device and then curve around the bottom, which would lead more often to the folio experience that you got on many iPads, which I don't think is a good experience. Instead, I just want a magnetic attachment for a keyboard on the bottom, similar to the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. But this might be just making too many guesses at what we see in the future. Even if the hardware doesn't look all that compelling, I'm really excited to see Google get back into the tablet making game so they can really drive the market forward in terms of the software experience on Android. Hopefully more manufacturers like Lenovo, Samsung, and even others will take cues from the Google tablet experience, the Pixel tablet experience, and then make their own great software experiences that keep them competitive. Now, before we wrap up, just to let you know, we've got some big videos in the pipeline right now, which is why we've gone a couple weeks without releasing the latest video. The first, coming soon, is the Surface Duo 2 deep dive, which I have a lot to talk about, and it's going to be just as in-depth as the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra review and deep dive a couple months back. Then we've got a bunch of big projects going on, similar to the building my own MacBook sort of video, where we've got a completely new way of using a device. You'll not want to miss it, so be sure to get subscribed if you aren't already. Thank you for watching. I hope you like this video. Let me know if there's any questions that you have about Google and the Keynote or Pixel devices down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.